This episode of Musical Hell is brought to you by Midnight Musicals. Welcome to the podcast Musical Underground. And by Cafe Himbo Cookbooks, celebrating his 10th anniversary. Thank you. Greetings, mortals. Welcome to another session of the Infernal Court in Musical Hell. I'm Diva, your judge, jury, executioner, and...
It is time!
Yes, after 2 years of requests, our next offender is Descendants 3. As Disney learned with previous franchises, you can't keep your characters in high school forever, although you can keep your franchise and spin-offs indefinitely. With that in mind, the third Descendants film was slated to be the last live-action outing for Mal and friends, a decision that was tragically set in stone roughly a month before its broadcast. On July 6, 2019, Cameron Boyce, aka Carlos DeVille, died of an epileptic seizure in his sleep at the age of 20. His sudden passing resulted in an outpouring of grief from co-stars and fans of Descendants and his other Disney series, Jessie and Gamer's Guide to Pretty Much Everything, and the August 2nd premiere of Descendants 3 was dedicated to his memory. Though last month saw an animated sequel in Descendants: A Royal Wedding, Carlos was noticeably absent and at this time seems likely to remain that way. But that's a matter left in other hands. For now, let's examine the case of Descendants 3. It's VK Day when Mal and friends journey to the Isle of the Lost to pick up the next crop of lucky villain kids chosen to get out of the ghetto and attend Auradon Prep. And the prospective offspring, who are dressed like they're auditioning for Annie and Oliver Go to the Barricade, celebrate with the official dance party opening.
If you got pride, raise your V's up high, wave 'em right, side to side, feel the vibe.
I can't say the opening numbers have gotten worse as this series progressed, but they've definitely gotten less distinctive. After the usual amount of bouncing around, the new recruits are announced in true Descendants verse fashion, by making sure everybody knows exactly which Disney property they're attached to.
With the granddaughter of Lady Tremaine, daughter of Drizella, my sweet, sweet friend, my Dizzy.
Didn't Dizzy already get an acceptance? Never mind. Rounding out the next generation are Squeaky and Squirmy, twin sons of Mr. Smee. And thank you so much for making me imagine that particular conception movie. And Celia, daughter of Dr. Facilier. Congrats to the lucky winners, sorry to the 99% of you still stuck on the prison island. Despite the joyous occasion, all is not sunny in Mal's life, as Uma is still swimming about somewhere and Audrey and Chad are being as mean kid as ever. Ben, meanwhile, is looking toward the future.
Will you marry me? Will you be my queen?
Mal is ecstatic and Evie's already designing the wedding gown, but Audrey and her grandmother Queen Leah are less than thrilled by this development.
You were supposed to be his queen, and you let him slip through your fingers. Your mother could hold on to a prince in her sleep.
Don't you think I feel bad enough already, Grammy?
Now, general douchiness of Chad aside, this series is well overdue to explore the darker side of its nominal hero characters, but I'm not on board with the way they've chosen to do it. Leah's dislike of Mal was more rooted in the trauma she'd experienced at the hands of Mal's mother, and while Audrey was catty and shallow, she didn't seem all that interested in holding on to Ben once his attentions shifted elsewhere. Now suddenly they're borderline abusive Jane Austen mom and resentful woman scorned. And that isn't even necessary to make them antagonists. Family grudge and prejudice towards the villain kids would have sufficed. We didn't need to go to this women in competition for a man angle. While Audrey goes off to sulk, Ben and the first generation VKs pile into Mal's custom limo to pick up the new class. It starts off well, with the recruits being introduced to the wonders of ice cream and chocolate, but things go south when Hades tries to make a break through the temporarily opened barrier, and Mal has to shift into bad CGI dragon form to deal with the threat.
There's your precious queen! She can't even protect us!
Take a seat, Audrey. I don't see you turning into a giant fucking dragon and throwing down with a literal god. Mal is able to beat Hades back, but his attack has drained her magic and left her shaken. While she goes to lick her wounds, Audrey becomes so consumed with bitterness over losing Ben that she launches into sin number 2, Queen of Mean.
And now I feel this overwhelming pain. I mean, it's in my veins. I mean, it's in my brain. My thoughts are running in a circle like a toy train. I'm kind of like a perfect picture with a broken frame.
Pro tip, Disney. Unless you actively have Lin-Manuel Miranda on the movie's payroll, Do not make your characters rap. Between the weak verses and the overproduced chorus, this whole thing is more Pilates warm-up song than open declaration of villainous intent. Audrey breaks into the Auradon History Museum, which you would think would have better security by now, or at least a guard who can stay awake, where she steals the Queen of Auradon's crown and Maleficent's scepter, the latter of which gives her a diabolical glam-up. News of the theft disturbs the already shaken royal family, and they look to the only person in the room who, as of yet, does not have any government authority.
I think that we have to close the barrier. Forever.
Ben is not on board with this idea, as it puts a crimp in his plan to play hero savior to the Isle of the Lost, but Mal argues their duty is to Auradon first. But for now, there's other things to attend to, like getting ready for Jane's birthday party. While Dizzy and Celia enjoy some dirt and fly-free cake in the garden, Audrey barges in and immediately launches into "You ruined my life and I'm out for revenge" mode.
You think Ben will love you now, you old hag?
Audrey, do you remember anything about Ben's family history? The only way to counter the scepter's magic is with Hades' Ember, the thing he was zapping Mel with earlier. Conveniently, Celia works as Hades' gopher, so she knows where to find him, so she joins the four leads as they bike over to the Isle, leaving Dizzy and the twins behind.
Carlos, you're gonna miss Jane's birthday!
Oh great, the talking dog is back. Yay. Meanwhile, Audrey decides to try the uninvited fairy routine at Jane's birthday party.
How could you forget what she did to us? How could you forget that I was supposed to be your queen?
Time out! Time.
Come on, Chad, she had a good rant going there. Chad offers his services as lackey for no apparent reason except general douchiness, and Audrey agrees before putting the rest of the partygoers to sleep. Jane manages to escape by diving into the magic-nullifying enchanted lake, so she's able to call Ben and give him a heads up. Meanwhile, the VKs roll into the Isle, where the evil magic-negating barrier conveniently does away with the necessity of putting Dove Cameron in disfiguring prosthetics for more than 2 scenes. The first step is a visit with Celia's father, who runs the local arcade.
Daddy!
Here! Come on!
I'm kinda digging Doc F as a cool dad myself. Fun fact, he's played by Jamal Sims, who among other things is one of the choreographers on RuPaul's Drag Race. Unfortunately, while Celia's catching up with family, Harry Hook and Gil Gaston's son have swiped the bikes, so Evie and the boys have to chase after their rides while Mal and Celia find Hades, and now is a good time to discuss sin number 3, a phenomenon I like to call kitchen sink plotting. There's always a certain amount of heavy lifting involved when a series is drawing to its natural conclusion. Plot and character arcs need to wrap up, loose threads need to be tied, and everything brought to, if not full closure, then at least to an intriguing open end. It's no wonder so many franchises fail to stick the landing, and a trap they fall into a lot is trying to pull in every single thing people remember from the course of the series, throwing everything in but the kitchen sink. Remember how Rise of Skywalker had callbacks to practically everything over the previous 8 Star Wars movies, until by the time the Ewoks showed up you were rolling your eyes because of course they had to find a way to work the Ewoks in? Like that. You can feel Descendants 3 straining as it tries to find room for all the heroes, villains, MacGuffins, and ideas it wants to bring in before drawing to a close. It makes for a very crowded movie. Mal and Celia sneak into Hades' underground lair, guarded by a recording of barking dogs in lieu of an actual Cerberus, which just proves that Supergiant has the cooler Hades. Mal tries to grab the Ember while he's sleeping, which of course doesn't go too well.
Hi, Dad.
So yeah, apparently Hades is Mal's father, which, is just not fair. How come she gets to double dip on villain parents? You just know she's cutting some blue-haired kid named Haley or Hayden out of their spot in the franchise. Anyway, Mal has the usual, you left when I was a kid and I'm still angry about it daddy issues, and Hades is bitter because he used to be a god, and now he's reduced to this crummy underground bachelor pad. Mal demands the Ember, but Hades isn't letting it go without a villain song.
I didn't come to fight for once, do something right.
I steal souls! Were you expecting flowers?
I mean, at least with Evil Like Me, the underscore wasn't fighting to drown out the singers. And there wasn't a tambourine break. or lyrics like this.
Let's make the memories. You can show me the town.
No, you can keep your memories now.
Get over it.
I am over it.
Hades hands over the ember, but warns Mal that with only half his DNA it won't be as effective with her, and also its magic will go out if it gets wet. Which is a problem because as soon as everyone steps on the crosstown bridge, Harry and Gil jump through the hole in the barrier to pick a fight, and guess who comes up from under the sea to join them? Uma has spent the break between movies trying to find a way to break down the barrier while learning about whales and coconuts, but now she has her hands on the ember and refuses to hand it over unless Mal agrees to let any kid leave the aisle if they so choose. This runs directly counter to Mal's close off the aisle forever plan, but she plays along for the moment, and everybody openly resents being in enemy of my enemy territory. Back on Auradon, Ben is trying to deal with the Audrey situation by phone when she poofs in and delivers her ultimatum.
Make me your queen and we'll rule side by side.
See, this is why segregating the villains was a bad idea. If Audrey had talked with Gaston or Frollo for 5 minutes, she would have known this kind of thing never works. Ben tries the old, I know there's still good in you routine, but that doesn't work as Audrey zaps him and escalates from sleeping spells to petrification. Mel and company arrive at Auradon Prep where everyone is snoozing. Gil is distracted by the existence of fresh fruit, and Harry does his best to adhere to the depraved bisexual trope without actually admitting he's bisexual. Reasoning that Audrey's ultimate target would be Ben, they make their way to his castle. Unfortunately for them, Audrey has mastered the spying on the heroes remotely part of the evil villain routine. And unfortunately for Chad, she's also made significant advances on the lackey abuse front. Audrey attempts to waylay the protagonists by... well, see for yourself.
Watch your back, watch your back, watch your back, watch your...
I mean, at least things have gone from painfully bad to hilariously bad. Too bad Star-Lord's not around to assist.
Dance off, bro. Me and you.
A handy use of Otto's irresistible dance defeats the choreographed armor, and everybody celebrates for a moment before realizing, oh right, we hate each other. Evie, who, not having a direct counterpart on the opposing side, is the officially designated mediator, attempts to make peace.
You know what we should try? An icebreaker.
Curses and poisoned apples are one thing, but forcing people to participate in an icebreaker? That's real evil right there. Uma proposes searching Audrey's room for clues, which, although Mal is reluctant to admit it, is a good idea. So the ladies go do that, while the guys search for Ben in the surrounding woods and engage in some hesitant male bonding. Sure enough, Audrey's diary reveals that she hangs out a lot at her fairy grandgodmother's cottage, so the girls head back to home base where they plan to rendezvous with the boys. And may I point out sin number 6, which is that the new characters are mostly useless in this installment? Celia has some plot relevance, but the thing between Mal and Hades doesn't go very far, and Dizzy and the twins have absolutely nothing to do. Speaking of, was Smee really the best choice for character inspiration here? It's not like Disney's A-list villains had been exhausted. This was 2019. Mother Gothel and Hans were right there. Doug is also passed out in Evie's sewing room, and upon seeing Evie's distress at the situation, Uma suggests that a little true love's kiss might come in handy here. Evie reluctantly admits that there hasn't been a whole lot of L-word discussion between her and Doug, and asks the other two girls to leave so she can sort out her feelings.
In song form.
When we met, it was sweet. He was also into me. Seems like things are meant to be, but I don't know.
I'm not a big fan of the song itself, but I love this idea. If you knew your deepest feelings for a person could be revealed in a single kiss, would you do it? Could you deal with the disappointment if you failed the test? This is the kind of exploration of fairy tale tropes I wish the series did more often. Evie does manage to revive Doug, even if he does respond to the irrefutable proof of her feelings with a bit of inappropriate joking. Back in the woods, the plan of wandering around aimlessly yelling Ben's name has so far failed to yield any results. sorry, but this is why low-budget beasts was a thing. It's like if Tom Hooper had been hired to direct the live-action version of The Lion King. Gil, of all people, determines that Beast Ben is suffering from thorn-in-the-paw syndrome, and Carlos fixes the problem while also conveniently distracting him long enough for Jane to turn up with a super soaker full of enchanted lake water. And I'm sorry, but by my count, that's 3 times that characters have undone curses that supposedly could only be undone by Hades' personal MacGuffin. Magic in fiction needs rules, but that goes double for fairy tales because those rules tend to dictate the plot. You have to leave the ball by midnight, you need to fall in love before the rose dies, you only get 3 wishes from the genie, and no, I wish for infinite wishes can't be one of them. I'll give them the true love's kiss thing because that's been an established trump card since Snow White's day, but the others? Just feels like an excuse to avoid time-consuming practical effects. In this case, the lake water is only a partial fix, leaving Ben with a much more manageable beard and fangs combo. As always, Ben is a bit slow on the uptake, but there's no time to process the whole the bad guys from the last movie are on our side now, as they need to meet back with the ladies who are weathering another attack from Audrey.
You caused our friends pain and fear. We've had enough. Now disappear.
Mal and Uma have started to have a grudging respect for one another, which means it's time for the third act conflict to show up. It comes after the VKs turn up at Fairy Cottage to find it deserted apart from Chad, who Audrey had stuffed in the closet during one of her lackey abuse sessions.
The door's open. I'm free.
Speaking of characters who are completely useless in this, now that all the protagonists are reunited, Mal is forced to come clean about the situation with the barrier. Uma and Harry, the latter displaying more character development than he's had in 1.5 movies, rightly call this out as bullshit, and Celia, devastated by the news that she might never see her dad again, douses the Ember in a bird bath. Mal's friends are no less disappointed in her, and to rub salt in the wound, they get zapped to stone almost immediately. So it's time for Mal's dramatic low point song, complete with extensive flashbacks.
Step into your greatness before your story ends.
Mal shifts into dragon form to rescue Celia from Audrey because, by the way, Audrey is holding Celia hostage now, but without the Ember's magic, she can't mount a good counterattack and gets smacked around until Uma and Harry, who have returned because why? Show up for an assist. Everyone is awake and unpetrified, but it's a Pyrrhic victory as Audrey has succumbed to her family tendency to comatoseness, and Mal can't wake her up even with the Ember. Realizing Hades is needed to undo this last bit of magic, Ben has him brought from the Isle in chains. Hades is obviously not too happy about the situation, and uses the opportunity to call out some of the inequities inherent in Auradon's justice system.
When you guys tried to destroy the world, this is an error in judgment. But when it's one of us, lock them up, throw away the key.
Hey, it took them 3 movies, but at least somebody finally said it. Hades wakes Audrey up, who is pretty remorseful about her evil binge, apologies all around, Hades and Mal make up, and also Mal gets the Ember just because, and at the big celebration, Mal gets to stand up and make a speech on the main theme of the franchise.
We are all capable of good and bad, no matter which side of the barrier we come from.
Mal and Ben decree that the Isle barrier will come down for good because the series is almost over and we don't need its maintenance as a plot point anymore. So villain kids and hero kids mingle freely in that favorite DCOM tradition, the dance party ending.
We're gonna break this down. We're gonna rock the town.
Well, almost, because there's some quick wrap-up to do. In brief, Carlos angsts about telling his mom he wants to be a vet, Jay and Gil are bromancing now, Audrey and Harry are getting paired up, Hades and Mal have made peace just in time for him to walk her down the aisle, and also do the creepy overprotective dad thing with Ben. And our 4 main characters complete their heroes' villains' journey by returning to the Isle of the Lost to pay their parents a visit. I will say that Descendants 3 does finally address some of the overarching issues I had with the previous movies. It doesn't always do it well, but effort was made and I can respect that. There are a couple of things that work, several more things that don't or aren't explored well enough to make them work, and a lot of more of the same on the music front. It's still not my thing, but for the fans of the series it should be a reasonably satisfying conclusion. So rather than issuing punishments, I would like to take this time to offer some constructive criticism, and don't you dare start running the credits on me because I'm going to get all this out. To begin with, the implication that Celia feels torn between her home and relationship with her father and the better life promised by Auradon is never fully explored. Hades being Mel's dad is an interesting idea, but it's just employed for some basic deadbeat dad tropes. Hey everybody, it's Christy. Look, don't tell Diva I hijacked the channel, but I wanted to let you know I'm doing the first ever Musical Hell live stream in 2 weeks, September 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. There's going to be a brand new live riff, some information on something cool I'm working on for the future, and a chance to find out what goes on inside my head. You know, if you're into that kind of thing. She's about done. I'd better log off. See you in 2 weeks. Because nobody wants to think about who the here fucked Smee. There, was that so hard? So let it be recorded. This session of the Infernal Court in Musical Hell is now adjourned.